Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. I guess you didn't really come out, but thank you for joining us. We really appreciate the school counseling department. And as you can see, you've been staring at your school counselors for the last couple minutes waiting for me to get started. But on the screen here, you can see Mr. Bergantino, Mr. Keeley, that's me, Mr. Jeremiah Winsek, I'm the Director of School Counseling, Mr. Niebers, Ms. Culleton, Mrs. Seek, and you have Mrs. Ochoa on the far right. And then I want to send a special thanks to Ms. Rubino, who you'll see here in a minute, and who is circled right here. Ms. Rubino is kind of the mastermind behind this whole evening, putting pathways together with the post-secondary plans. So thank you to her. She's going to give a presentation here in a minute. Natalie Rubino is about 14 years of experience as a school counselor. She has a true passion for college counseling. She's been on hundreds of college visits. And so you're going to hear some of her expertise and information here in a minute. I'm just going to share a few slides and we'll get to the important stuff. This is what colleges were looking for back in 2019. As you can see, there's no surprise that the top three areas were college or courses that you took in high school, the strength of your curriculum, the grades that you've received. And you can see this test scores was fourth. Well, that's changed a lot ever since COVID. And there's a lot of test optional now, which from a counselor perspective is a good thing because it really opened it up and made it more equitable in the college admissions world. We don't know what that looks like right now, but Mr. Bino is going to talk about that in a little bit too. We understand from the school counseling department that college admissions process can be pretty confusing, especially if it's the first time you've been through it. We are here to support you and make it less confusing. We're going to work with juniors over the next year and seniors as senior year rolls around. We're going to be working on the college application process every step of the way. Just a couple things to keep in mind. Be mindful of where you are throughout the process. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to know what all these different things mean here that you see. We're here to help. So we're going to be here for you step by step, the scaffold. Try to have fun throughout the process while researching. Being here tonight is going to be a blast. So that's your first fun step. Getting on some campuses, just getting a feel for it, even if they're not official visits, just getting a feel for the energy of a campus is pretty important. Check out some virtual tours if you don't have an opportunity to do that. Almost all schools have virtual tours now. And talk to some college reps. We have hundreds of them that come here to visit Glenbard West, so make sure you take advantage of that. Please, this will be reiterated over the next year or so. Please empower your child. It's a very important step. We really have to find the best place that fits them. Ms. Rubino will talk about this in her college fit presentation, but they should be writing their own essays and filling out their own applications. Just keep the focus on them and figuring out, which college fits the best. As far as support at school, we'll have these presentations. We've been given presentations in English classes, just kind of brainstorm, doing some workshops, exploring some colleges and just kind of figuring out the process and what students are looking for. We have this college night. We're going to have junior individual meetings, a full period session. There's going to be College 101 over the summer. There'll be a senior convo at the start of next year. We'll have a parent presentation, and we'll just be here for small groups, individual meetings, whatever it takes for seniors next year as well. You can see in the end, this all works out. Every year we have a map similar to this. This is where our class of 22 attended. It's 145 different colleges all over this country and even in some other countries. And this is a typical map of where our students usually attend. But the most important thing to keep in mind here is everything will work out in the end. And if you're going to worry, I guess, just make sure you worry more about finding the college that fits your student and less about trying to change a student to fit the college. That's the most important thing. So without further ado, Ms. Rubino is up next.
Hi, everyone. I'm just getting my screen shared here. Thanks, Jeremiah, for the kind introduction. My name is Natalie Rubino, and I'm a school counselor here at Glenbard West. We recognize that there are families from all four Glenbards here, so welcome and thank you for joining us. The purpose of this introduction presentation is I want to talk to families about finding your fit. Really kicking off the college search process for our junior families. And, we've provided 3 different breakout sessions. So I've pasted in the chat the link to our different breakout sessions so you guys can plan the rest of your evening and explore different college pathways. We recognize that students do have different pathways. And, I really want families to consider about finding the right fit. So without further ado, I will keep going with my presentation. So first, I would like to start off with doing a little bit of a self-assessment with your families, asking you guys a couple of questions, things to consider when finding your fit. I'm going to review some college admission criteria, hopefully cover some of the application process just to review. It changes every year. It's changed since, if you've had an older child in college already, the process it's changing. So I want to give some updates there and provide a timeline of what you guys can expect for this next year or so. So what I want to ask families and want you guys to consider as you are, listening to my presentation is, why is college your plan? Why is going to college important to you? Think about what are your values? What is your career goals, and why is college going to help you achieve that? So think about that question. And then the other question I always like to ask students is, what are you looking for in a college? So a lot of times kids are always like, can I get in? And it's not necessarily about can I get in, but it's a mutual selection process. Colleges have to select you as much as you have to choose them. So thinking about maybe figuring out 5 things that a college must have in order for you to be happy there. And if you haven't thought about those things yet, or don't know the answer to that question, this is the place I would say you need to start. Whether you are visiting a variety of campuses, we have a bunch of small schools right in our backyard: North Central College, Elmhurst University, Aurora University. Go check out a small school. Go check out an urban campus, maybe checking out UIC or Loyola or DePaul. Go see what a large campus is like, whether you visit University of Illinois or the University of Iowa or Illinois State, large campuses in campus college towns, and get an idea of what you like and dislike about a school. So I always say there's no bad campus visit. So even if you hated the campus, you learned something. You learned what you don't like or what you're not looking for. So, this is the next 4 years of your life. Juniors, once you graduate. So you want to make sure that you're making informed decisions. This is probably the biggest decision you've ever had to make in your time here. So making sure that you have an understanding about what the next 4 years could look like. The college search process is a process, and it's about finding the right fit. So for some students, there might be a lot of fits. But for other students, maybe it's, you might have that aha moment on a college campus. But thinking about, there's a lot of things to think about, and there's a lot of options out there, more so than ever. So just a couple points that I like to, bring up with families. When you're looking at a college, I think of it in 4 different categories: people, place, program, and price. So starting with people, a lot of colleges have added a community question on their application, because really they want to know, what are you looking for? What does your community look like in high school? And what kind of community are you looking for on a college campus? Are you looking for cultural diversity, a mix of male and females? What kind of political climate are you looking to be a part of? Or is there a religious affiliation that's important to you to be a part of on a campus? Maybe it's a geographic region. Maybe you're looking for an LGBTQ plus friendly campus. What is the personality like on the campus? In addition to that, what is the place like? When we talk about college size, you might have some colleges are the size of Glenbard West. You might have a class size that's similar to your class sizes at Glenbard West, or maybe even smaller. Or are you on a big university, where you might have classes that are up to 800 students. Thinking about the distance from home. Is it a plane ride away, or can you take a bus or a car to get there? What is the setting like? Urban, rural, suburban? Is it like a college town? Some kids who haven't ever experienced like a rural community, that's a very different lifestyle than, living in the suburbs of Chicago. The type of school might be something that you're considering. Maybe you want a fine arts school or a liberal arts, or maybe you're looking for an ROTC program on a campus. A lot of families, are looking for that name school or looking for that prestige. But sometimes that's not always the best fit for students. So I always think, about students when you talk about those name schools, some of them are very competitive, academically competitive environments versus being a more collaborative environment. At Glenbard West, we're very sports heavy. And so some students really look for it, want to be a part of a sports going culture. If they attend all the football games or the basketball games as a fan, maybe it's important to you to make sure that the campus that you're going to be attending has a strong sports culture. 51% of Illinois high school graduates going to a four-year college actually go out of state. It's a pretty significant statistic. At Glenbard West, we're about 70% of our students who go to go out of state. This is because a lot of our neighboring states have benefits and merit-based scholarships for our students. A lot of times kids are looking for something different. That being said, some of our Illinois public universities have made great strides to keep the best and the brightest in the state of Illinois. Whether it could be benefits financially, or maybe the students are looking for something different, place is something definitely consider. And if you do go out of state, figuring out how you're going to come home, during breaks and whatnot. When we talk about program, I always tell kids, make sure that the school has what you want to study. If you want to study nursing, make sure that the school has a nursing major. So a lot of times kids will be like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about this school. And I'm like, well, but do they have the program that you and I have been talking about? Do they have a direct admit program? Meaning we're going to hear later on tonight from the Kelly Business School at Indiana University. They have a direct admit program to their business school. It's the only direct admit program that they have. If you're really wanting a specific major, sometimes you don't get admitted until your sophomore year. And what happens if you don't get in? So if you're looking for something specific and it's competitive, you might be considering some direct admit programs. Nursing is another example of that. And we do have a nursing pathway breakout session if you want to check that out to get more information as well. Some students are really multi-interested and they want some interdisciplinary studies, or maybe they're interested in internships or co-ops, opportunities to study abroad. If those things are important to you, making sure that the college offers programs for that. And then for those students who are undecided, 50% of kids go to college undecided. It's very common. Oftentimes kids think that they want to, study something in particular and then change their mind. How easy is it to change majors? I recommend attending our undecided majors breakout session if you're really not sure, to learn what it's like as an undecided major and what kind of advising and career advising you might receive on a college campus, so that you're not, stuck, paying for 5 years of college instead of 4 because you've changed your mind. Price is another thing that, more and more families are considering. So checking out the cost of attendance. The sticker price is very different than the net price. So by law, every college has to have a net price calculator on their website. So making sure you're checking out their financial aid and scholarships page. Oftentimes our students are awarded merit-based scholarships. Colleges know that Glenbard West is a competitive high school. We're a strong high school with very bright students. So there's merit-based aid and there's need-based aid. The state of Illinois passed a law, all Illinois high school graduates have to complete the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid in order to graduate high school. This is where you can be receiving need-based state and federal aid. If you have questions or want to learn more about the financial aid process, I highly recommend attending one of our financial aid breakout sessions. But certainly visiting the college website to get a better idea of how much it might actually cost your family to attend a particular college. Okay, so I'm going to transition to what the colleges are going to be looking for in you. This is always the big question about families, from families. So open enrollment schools, this is like College of DuPage. So any student could apply and go to take classes there. The other two, selective and highly selective enrollment, I'm going to break those down in my next slide. So the review process, is what the colleges are going to be looking for to be admitting students. For selective colleges, it's very simple. For highly selective college, it tends to be more holistic. The types of things colleges might look at is the application. Most colleges are on what's called the Common Application. All Illinois public schools have moved, they're on the Common Application, but a lot of colleges also have their own individual application. Students can choose to do either. So as you're researching colleges, figure out how do you apply to the school? What kinds of things do you need to apply to the school? So typically it's the high school transcript, and it'll be grades through the end of junior year. There's a sample transcript on the slide below. We also include the school profile, which gives the schools information about the high school and our graduates. Typically, colleges have a representative who's their job to get to know our school and our students and our curriculum. So they definitely know that we have challenging classes here. But the school profile usually adds and helps answer information. Like this year, we moved to a new grading scale. And so that provided information to the colleges about that. More and more colleges have moved test optional since the pandemic. It's an equity issue. It's been an access issue for students, and they're getting the same types of kids. So it's really important to research for the schools that you're applying to. Do they require a test score, or is it test optional to submit one? The state of Illinois passed a law. All public universities are test optional, meaning students do not need to send a test score in order to be considered for admission. Most schools are reporting about 50% of students applying with a test score and 50% without. However, it's important to do your research because the state of Tennessee passed a law the complete opposite direction. So they are now requiring test scores from all applicants. So it's really important to figure out, is it required for the schools that you're applying to? Essays or personal statement or your college essay, this term is used interchangeably. Some schools require it. Some schools have a specific question they want you to answer. Sometimes they just use the Common Application essay, which there's 7 different prompts you get to respond to, just one of them. So sometimes that's not required for colleges and sometimes it is. Letters of recommendation, typically a teacher from your junior year or your counselor. Again, sometimes it's required, sometimes it's not. Oftentimes colleges want to see your activity resume or the things that you're involved in high school. Colleges know that students who are involved in high school are going to get involved on their campus. So certainly if you have a job, that's just as important as any club or activity. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a ton of activities, but as long as you're doing something to be putting that on your college application, also to be giving yourself a better understanding of the things that you're interested in and your passions. For some of our fine and performing arts students, an audition or portfolio is required, and some of the highly selective schools do require an interview. Demonstrated interest is tracked at some schools. It's typically more highly selective schools, and demonstrated interest just means, have you been on campus? Have you visited? Have you met with an admissions rep? And they do track every time you not only open an email from them, but contact the school. So I would say that is a very small percentage of schools that do track that demonstrated interest, but it's important to understand if you are looking at some highly selective schools that you are looking into that. So for selective admission schools, it's very simple. Do you meet the criteria, the minimum GPA? Do you have the core courses they're looking for? If they're requiring test scores or an essay, is it a good match? Then you're in. Some of these schools tend to be more rolling admission schools, or, even some of our public universities. So you hear rolling admissions just means you're getting admitted on a rolling basis. And I have a slide that's going to cover that in a couple of slides. So selective admissions, meet the criteria, you're in. Going back to selective admissions, if you don't meet the criteria, sometimes they want more information. Maybe it's your senior year grades. Maybe they want an additional letter of recommendation. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't meet the criteria, you're out. It just means sometimes they might want more information. So for highly selective admissions, this is definitely more of a holistic situation. We're talking about schools that their admit rate is below 40%. So they admit less than 40% of the students that apply. So how to stand out in this process? Typically, highly selective schools, the students have very similar academic, paths. They have very similar grades. A's are expected in the most challenging courses. They're looking for students and who are going to contribute to their community. So what do you just do outside of the classroom? What do you do aside from studying? What's your passion? How do you show leadership? So while they might look for well-roundedness, sometimes they're looking for well-lopsidedness, which means like maybe you're really into computer science. You've taken all the computer science classes at your high school. You've you teach computer science classes to elementary school students, and you have developed the website for your club or activity, and you are creating a code or a program for the library. Okay, so lots, very heavy computer science focus. That is that well-lopsidedness. Well-roundedness obviously is what it sounds like. You're involved in a lot of things. You showed leadership in a lot of things. There's a lot of depth and breadth to what you can contribute to a college. So the essays oftentimes are deliberately ambiguous because they want to hear your voice. They want to know how you think. And it's less about, telling them what they want to hear, but they want to hear how you think. So they're really looking for student voice here. And counselors definitely work with students on how to kind of answer some of these questions. But certainly sitting in on some admissions sessions and hearing directly from the admissions reps, you can get some idea and some feedback on what they're looking for. So I highly recommend, if you are considering a highly selective school, sitting in on our highly selective admissions presentation in the second breakout session to hear from our representative from the University of Chicago, which they always have some very quirky essay prompts. Letters of recommendation are very important, typically for highly selective admissions. So really getting to know your junior teachers and your counselor, because this is part of their process. And then sometimes they give special consideration to legacies or students with special talents. That might be, maybe you're an artist or a musician and you're that like trombone player that they're looking for their band, or maybe you're that athlete that they're looking for their sports team. So for highly selective admissions, I would say that this is a much more competitive track. And so they typically look at students in a holistic manner. So all of these things are important in the application process. So changing over to majors and the areas of study for students, we are moving to a program called Schoollinks. We've been on Naviance for many years, and now we're trying a new program next year. Schoollinks is being rolled out this year, so your junior will be on Schoollinks. There's a breakout session. This first breakout session as an intro to Schoollinks. So I highly recommend, checking out Schoollinks to start exploring different college majors. You can search colleges based on that major, but also visiting the college websites. Each website, they are so robust now. Since the pandemic, there's videos, there's admissions presentations, and virtual tours that students can take. You can connect with the colleges so much easily because of everything from the pandemic. So there's great resources on the college websites. I think declaring a major is something that's really hard for kids. I think sometimes they think that they know what they want to do, but maybe, they're not really sure what's out there. University of Illinois has an amazing website for majors. They even suggest like majors. So maybe you're interested in environmental science, and maybe you haven't considered like sustainability and you didn't know that was a path you can go down. If you're undecided, I always tell kids, maybe look at a college that has at least 2 to 3 majors that you're interested in. And sometimes you don't have to declare your major to sophomore year versus other schools like the University of Illinois, where you apply directly to a major within a college. Oftentimes kids choose biology or psychology as like their default major because maybe they wanted to get into health sciences. And those are very competitive majors and almost make it more harder for a student to get into the university. So the more research you do, and sometimes the more specific your major is, the better chance you have of getting in. So additionally, a lot of the liberal arts schools or some of them Smaller colleges allow you to create your own major. So if they are not offering, or they also may allow you to double major. So if you have lots of areas of interest, you might want to check out a smaller school because they can offer oftentimes more. As you're creating your college list, we look at colleges in 3 different categories: reach, match, and likely or a safety school. Common application, which is that one application you can send to multiple colleges, has made it really easy for students to apply to a lot of schools. Students are applying to more schools than ever. But we're also making sure that students add, financial safeties or financial fit schools. And sometimes that might be one of our Illinois public schools, and also geographic safeties. So if you're looking at schools that are outside of the city, making sure you have a school close to home just in case you change your mind. So it's important as you're adding to this list. Sometimes kids don't know, like, how do I know if this is going to be a safety school for me or a match school? Looking on their websites for their middle 50%. So every college should break it down, their admitted student profile from the previous year. So looking at the University of Illinois versus Michigan State, they break it down based on major for the University of Illinois, and Michigan State breaks it down by the university. And typically this is in your core classes. So it does not include like culinary and PE classes. They reconfigure your GPA on that 4.0 scale, typically just using your core classes. This is again how you kind of can consider like what's a reach, match, and a safety. If you fall in that above that range, that middle 50% range, then it would be a safety school. If you fall in that range, it's a match. And if you're below the range, then we would say that's a reach school. Just to cover test optional admissions, this is very confusing, but about 1,800 colleges have moved test optional. So that's more than 73% of all colleges and universities. For more information, you can visit fairtest.org. But this means that it's not going to be a penalty if you do not share a test score. So if the school is test optional, sometimes it's test optional for admissions, but sometimes for scholarships, they may require it. So again, it really requires you guys doing that research for what's needed for in the admissions process. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but we did pass a law in Illinois that all public universities are test optional for students. So for some college resources, as I mentioned, School Links, it's new. It's very intuitive. So your student's going to be rolling out on it shortly. You guys can do a tutorial in the next breakout session. College Board has great resources, and really the individual college websites. If you've not been on a college website and looked at their admission site, how to visit virtually, how to visit in person, I highly recommend getting on those college websites. The U.S. Department of Ed has a college scorecard, which breaks down, some of the financial pieces. The other part I always suggest use with caution, some of the college rankings like the U.S. News and World Report, Princeton Review, those come out every year. There's a lot that goes into them. There's a lot of bias with social media. Your student is getting their information from TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram, which is great. It gives you a good sense of what the students are doing on campus, but also, take it with a grain of salt. Just like, if you hear anything about a school from a neighbor, allow your student to formulate their own opinions about a specific school. When navigating a college website, you definitely want to look for what is needed in the application process. So as an example, I have the University of Wisconsin here. They have their application fee. They require 2 essays. And then they want your grade and course information, and 1 letter of recommendation was required. I think you can send up to 2. On their website, you can request more information. If you have not filled out on the college websites, get on their mailing list so they can let you know when they're doing events in the local area, so that they know that you're interested in them. Also, there's a link for visiting. So learn how to visit. Don't just, I know Mr. Winsack said drive by campus, which is great if you're going on a family vacation, but do official visits, hear the admissions presentation, go on a tour, visit with students who are already attending there, eat lunch in the cafeteria, sit on the quad, get a sense for the community and the vibe on campus. As I mentioned, this is the college scorecard. What's helpful about this is you can see the typical loan repayment if you have to borrow money, how many students, what % of students are borrowing money, and a typical debt after graduation. I'm going to mention the Colleges That Change Lives. This is a consortium of schools. It's a book by Lauren Pope. These are schools that students typically may not consider. They're smaller liberal arts schools. They're definitely looking at students holistically, and they really look at that fit. So if your student's looking for a unique experience, I recommend checking out their website. College of DuPage, you might be right down the street. 22% of our graduates, over 100 students attend College of DuPage for various reasons. They have great 3+1 programs and a great transfer network. So certainly checking out College of DuPage and their offerings, especially if students are undecided or maybe not ready to go away from home. There's a lot to unpack here with college deadlines, but I would like to just highlight, we encourage early action. Typically November 1st, October 15th is that one deadline for a couple of schools, but early action means you apply early, you find out early, you get early consideration or priority consideration for scholarships and for programs. Additionally, there are different admission decisions. But making sure you're researching the college websites to learn about their different deadlines and their different timelines for their decisions. If you want to screenshot this, the role of the parent, encourage the timeline, let this be student driven, provide different opportunities for your student to explore, to learn what they like and dislike, set up parameters, and also respect your students' privacy, throughout this process. Talk about finances, keep a positive attitude and be mindful of their stress level and yours. Students, hopefully you will actively take charge of this process. Engage with the college admissions representatives. They might be the first person reading your application. Make sure you seek out resources and be realistic with your college options. Allow your parent and your counselor to support you. And ultimately, in the end, there are no wrong decisions. So what's next? To become a competitive applicant, make sure you keep up your grades, take challenging courses, but also keeping up that balance with your extracurricular schedule. Check admission requirements, cultivate relationships with your junior year teachers and get involved. Visit these campuses, attend college fairs and talk to the admissions reps. And then your counselor will be meeting with you in the spring for your junior meeting. For those of you who are looking for some support for test prep, there's free virtual test prep on our Schoology page. If you would like to register for that, it is virtual. There are ACT and SATs that students can register for on their individual websites. Juniors will be taking the SAT in April, and you can continue to retake it if you want, if you're planning to apply with a test score. And students are responsible for sending their test scores directly to the institutions. This summer, continue visiting college campuses, finalize your list, do something, enriching this summer, whether you're doing a summer program or having a job, begin drafting your essays and organizing your applications. And then we do offer a college 101 workshop to get a jump start on your applications in August. There's a lot. So if I went really fast, I apologize. I think the next 3 breakout sessions will provide a wealth of information for you. I encourage you to join the 3 breakout sessions to learn more about what is best for your family and for your student, and know that the counselors are here to help. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and click on the link in the chat to visit the breakout session of your choice. The next breakout session starts at 6:05, so you have 2 minutes.
Just put the link on there again for everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks, Ms. Rubino.
Thank you.